Well, hey there. I'm Gemini.
That battery can last up to 24 hours even with the always-on display turned on. It's pretty cool. Welcome back to The Explainer. If you've ever sold a house, there's one massive question that comes up. How exactly is that profit going to get taxed? And trust me, the answer can have a huge impact on your wallet.
All right, so let's get right into it. You sell your home, you make a profit, great. But now, the tax man sees that money in one of two ways. Is it a capital gain? That's usually the one you want, because it gets a much friendlier tax rate. Or is it just income? Like your salary, which gets taxed at your highest personal rate. And this isn't just some boring tax jargon. We're talking about a difference that could be thousands, even tens of thousands of dollars.
So to really wrap our heads around how this works today, we're actually going to travel back in time a little bit. We're going to dig into this really important court case from an old real estate boom that just lays this whole conflict out perfectly. Think of it as a cautionary tale for, well, anyone who's ever thought about buying and selling property.
Okay, so picture this. The housing market is just red hot. Prices are soaring, everyone's trying to get in on the action. And right in the middle of all this, we've got our main character, a taxpayer who was, let's just say, very busy. He wasn't just dipping his toes in, he was deep into multiple projects at once.
And this is where we start to see a pattern emerge, right? First off, he built a series of houses. This wasn't just a one-off thing. Then, he turned around and resold each one really quickly. We're not talking about a long-term hold here. This was fast. And get this, he was doing all of this in a subdivision his family actually owned. So it kind of has that feel of a coordinated, business-like operation. You see, any one of these things by itself might not raise an eyebrow, but you put them all together? Uh-oh, that starts to paint a very specific picture for the tax authorities.
But, and this is where the story gets really interesting, in the middle of all this hustle and bustle, with all these houses being built and sold, there was one house. Just one. And the tax court treated it completely differently than all the others.
Yep, just one. Out of this whole string of deals, one single house got special treatment. So you gotta ask, right? What was so special about this one?
And the answer is surprisingly simple. It wasn't just another number on a spreadsheet, another project on the list. This was his home. He and his wife actually lived there, and that one little detail, it changed absolutely everything.
And this gets us to a really important idea in the tax world, the principal residence. It's basically the official term for the main place you live. And here's the magic part. In a lot of places, when you sell your principal residence, the profit you make can be totally tax-free. That is a huge deal. It's one of the best tax breaks out there. And just by living in that one house, our guy unlocked that powerful exemption, but only for that one property.
Okay, so the house he lived in, it's safe. We get that. But what about all the other houses? This is the heart of the problem, really. This is why this case is still talked about today. It's all about what was going on with those other sales.
So let's really think about this. He built them, he owned them, he sold them for a profit. Sounds a lot like the first house, right? So what was the tiny legal detail that threw them into a totally different tax bucket?
It all came down to this one phrase. This is pulled straight from the judge's notes, and it basically sealed the deal. The quick flip. See, that wasn't just the judge describing what happened. It was a legal conclusion. It meant the judge believed the whole point of these other houses wasn't to invest for the long haul, but to sell them fast and make a quick buck.
Now, in all fairness, the taxpayer had his side of the story. He argued, hey, my plan was always to hold these as investments. He was trying to position himself as an investor, building a portfolio for the future, and if the court bought that, his profits would have been treated as capital gains with that nice lower tax rate.
Yeah, the judge wasn't buying it. Not for a second. And this, right here, is the lesson for all of us. What the taxpayer said his intention was, investment, didn't match up with what his actions were showing. The incredible speed of the sales, how many there were, it all screamed business, not investment.
And that brings us to the big ruling. The core distinction that every single person who owns property needs to get. The judge had to make a call. Was this guy an investor, or was he running a business?
This right here is the heart of the whole thing. On one side, you've got the investor. Their goal is to hold on, wait for the property to grow in value. And their reward for that patience, the profit is a capital gain, taxed at a way lower rate. But on the other side, you've got the flipper, someone who's basically running a business. Their goal, quick profit. The result, that profit is just treated like regular income, like your paycheck, and it gets taxed at your highest marginal rate. And in our story, the judge looked at all the evidence and put the taxpayer firmly in that flipper column.
So, you might be wondering, how did the judge even decide that? Well, he just looked at the cold, hard facts. First, the super short time between building the houses and selling them. We're talking months, not years. That screams flip, not invest. Second, the fact that it was a whole series of transactions. That starts to look less like a personal investment and more like a retail business selling products off a shelf. And finally, the whole setup in a family-owned subdivision. It just had the feel of an active business, not a passive investment.
So with all that evidence on the table, the judge's decision on those other houses was crystal clear, and our taxpayer was about to find out just how painful the financial hit was going to be.
100%. Not some of it, not most of it, all of it. Every single penny of profit he made from those flips was now on the table to be taxed. And here's the kicker. That profit was just piled right on top of his regular income for the year. That means it got taxed at his highest possible rate. No discounts, no special treatment, nothing. I mean, the financial difference between that and getting the capital gains rate, it had to be absolutely massive.
So this really sums it all up, doesn't it? It's a tale of two completely different results. For the house he actually lived in, it was a principal residence. The profit was tax-free, a huge win for him. But for all the other houses, they were labeled quick flips, a business, and 100% of that profit got taxed as income. It was the same guy during this same real estate boom, but his actions created two totally separate tax stories.
So, okay, why are we digging up this old case? What does it have to do with you today? Well, because these rules, these principles, they haven't changed. It doesn't matter if you're selling your very first apartment or you're managing a whole portfolio of rentals, the lessons here apply to you right now.
If you take one thing away from this, let it be this. It's your actions, not just your intentions, that tell the story. You can say you're a long-term investor all day long, but when the tax authorities look at your file, what story do your actions tell? How long did you actually own the property? Do you have a pattern of quick sales? Does it look like a business? Because that's what's going to decide how you get taxed.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. When you sell a property, what story are your actions going to tell? Really think about it, because understanding that story, well, that's the whole key to getting through the crazy world of real estate and taxes. Thanks for tuning in.